Let's talk about higher order functions, because according to this polling system, is clearly the winning option, right? So please, can someone tell me what a higher order function is? Except Chris, because he suggested this topic. Right?
One that accepts a function as an argument,
Uh-huh.
or returns a function as an argument.
Exactly. Yes. So I'll be honest, I never heard that kind of terminology, higher order functions. I used to call it differently, more like callback functions, but it's about the same. Cool. So let's talk about that topic.
Yeah, you can include that where it returns a function.
Yeah.
Cover those.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just have one quick technical question about Slack before we start. Is that I added the map and reduce and filter as well, but I don't see myself on added to this poll. How can I add this
to the poll? Right. We'll see afterwards, Sultan, okay, because we are recording the session, right? Cool. So let's talk about callback functions, which is a type of high order functions. You remember that we have a function called hello, nothing very surprising, right? And then we call hello, and then hello, return hello, right? Yeah, super exciting, right? So we got hello at the bottom. But then imagine that we pass an argument with the name. So we could do, let's use some string interpolation. So how can we display that variable here in the string? Backticks, right? Backticks, $, backticks, $, curly brackets. Thank you, Christian. Yeah. So then if I say Christian, say hello, Christian, right? Cool. So this is the basic approach to argument handling. You pass a variable, and then the variable, you just use it, right? But in some particular cases, what you pass as the argument of the function is not a string, it's not a number, it's not a Boolean, it's not an object, it's not an array, something slightly more complex. It's a function, right? So that could be a function. So I'm going to name it like I'm going to set the name to callback function, right? So that means that eventually this method could invoke that function, right? So do you know how can then we now pass a function here? The name, right? So this is a function, right? Because we're calling the function, we're invoking the function. So then the only thing we need to do is literally create a function as the argument, right? So in here, we can run stuff. This, I'm sure if you remember when you have created any find, any filter, any for each, these kind of things, right? That you declare here a callback function. So it's this kind of a strategy. So you call a function, and as the argument, you have another function. So let's add a couple of breakpoints. Which line will be executed first? We look at what I'm doing. I'm adding 4 breakpoints. So you are going to tell me the execution order. Wait a minute. So Justin is suggesting. No, Justin, you go last. Right. So Christian.
I would say because on top of its function.
Yep.
Below it's 6.
So which is the first breakpoint? 2, 3, 6, or 7?
6.
6. Right. And then.
7 and 2.
6, 7, 2, and what happened with 3? Is it executed at all? Well, he doesn't know. Who else? Another.
I think kind of like the same, but I don't think that.
So 6, 7, 2.
2 and 3 is never called. That hello functions is not.
6, 7, and 2.
Oh no, you call it a function. Okay.
Right. Someone else? Justin?
There's 6, 7, 2, 3.
6, 7.
Oh,
6, 7. Which one? Which next? This is 2 and this is 3.
6, 7, 2, 3.
2, 3. Right. Someone else?
6, 2, 3, 7.
6, 2. So sorry, Albert.
Yeah, I
6.
agree with this one.
Sorry, 6, 2.
3, 7.
6, 2, 3, 7. Come on, guys. You are all absolutely wrong. Next one. 2, 3, 6, 7.
Just guess it out.
Right. Wrong. Who say that? That was Aaron. Right. I mean, look, we just got 16 options, right? So yes.
I think 6, 2, and nothing.
Yeah. So Sultan. Sorry. No. You leave someone else.
I reckon 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Right. So people who hasn't bet yet.
Okay, no, let's try it.
So
Can I
Constantine.
Okay,
modify?
let's try it.
Yeah.
6,
6,
2,
2,
7, 3.
7, 3. Right. Someone else.
Just 6, 7.
So Norbert. Yes, 6, 7. Oh, you're playing hard, eh?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So Dave. Yes, 6 and 7. Cool. That was a good topic then because you are all wrong. Absolutely. Massively wrong.
Thanks for the top.
Yeah. No, but that's good, right? That means that you are going to learn that. That's good. That's really good exercise. Besna?
2, 3, of course, because it has
Besna?
to be declared.
No, no clue. Damani? Rush?
7, 3,
Rush says 7, 3,
2, 6.
2, 6. Damani?
Well, I actually was not paying attention.
Okay, great.
Mine thinks 9, 10, 11, 12.
No, I think
So-
it starts with 2.
Right, so, okay.
We just stuck 2, 3, 6.
No, that's too late.
That's what I
2,
said.
3, 6, 7.
That's what I said.
And
Okay,
then-
okay, okay.
and then
2.
again,
Wait, so the crowd says
Because you're doing it
2,
6, it jumps.
3, 6, 7. It's incredible. You are still wrong. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are just 16 possibilities. You said 10 and they are all wrong. Right. I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to tell you the answer. Because maybe I'm wrong too. Right. So, and there will be a big failure, right? So I think, Ricardo thinks that this is going to be 2, 6, 3, 7. Right? I'm going to play the example and we'll see what happens. Right? Hey, wait a minute. The second one was removed. No, wait a minute. No,
Too late, too late.
No, wait a second. You see, it's not stopping. Oh, that's weird. Should stop here. It's removing. Look at Chrome. I'm not kidding. Look. Look, you see the breakpoint, right? When I press play, it's gone.
That's because it didn't need it.
Yes.
Why didn't
Yeah,
need
go
it?
to say-
It's just
I mean, wait a second. No. Wait a
But
second.
is it because you've not got the callback function mentioning hello in it anywhere? So it's
Yeah.
Because there's
would
still
that be in the brackets or
brackets.
in the other?
I think you got asked
When
one.
you get a function of the name of the function, isn't that just declaring a function?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's just declaring.
Yep.
Isn't the calling
It's the
actually?
first one.
Yeah, isn't that the first one?
Okay, fair enough. So it's not stopping on line number 2 because of whatever reason, right? So then we got 6, 7, and 3. So 3, 6, and 7.
So you're saying it's 6, 3, 7 is going to be the order, yeah?
So Chris says 6, 3, and 7.
No, that's not what I'm
No, what do you think?
thinking. 3, 6,
3, 6, and 7. Someone else?
6, 3, 6.
Wait. So who said something here? Besna, was you? Besna said 3, 7, 6. And then Aaron, 6, 3, 7.
Just be the one.
Someone else?
What he said, I thought that was what he said.
So Christian says 6, 3, 7. Someone else? Yeah, so I think both Christian and Aaron are right. So the thing is, it's going to stop here because that's the first piece of functionality. You were right, I was wrong. It's not going to stop on line number 2 because this is just the declaration of the function. So until someone calls it, it's never going to stop there. But then, so we stop on line number 6 first.
That's what we called it.
Yeah, correct. That's what we call it. And then we call the hello function, right? So it will stop on line number 3. And then we invoke the callback function, which is that. And then it's going to stop on line number 7. That's what I believe. And let's see if that's correct or not. We start line number 6, right? That's correct. Then it should stop in line number 3. It's correct again. You see, that's the callback function. And then it should stop on line number 7 because we're calling the function, right? So that callback function is that bit of code. And we are invoking the function, right? That's it. And we display the hello message. Does it make sense? Callback functions. This is one of the most important and complex things to understand in the JavaScript world because there is some kind of asynchronicity, right? So things happen on a specific order that definitely we need to understand, we need to grasp, because otherwise it's going to be very complicated to be able to debug this logic. Any question? Right, so this is the first type of high order function, but as Justin originally suggested, there is a variant, there is another version of high order functions, which is the following. So I'm not going to pass any argument. Look, so start again, right? So no arguments at all, but however, I'm going to return a function and that function is going to do console log hello again. So the question is, if I want to display that message on the screen, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to get that console log display?
You have to
Hello
hello parentheses,
parenthesis and another parenthesis, like that?
one next to each other.
One next to each other. Something like that? Okay, let's.
This should do stuff.
Right, so this is kind of mental, but let's see what happens if we run it. He's right, right? So this is like the most efficient way to do it, but it's probably the hardest one to understand. So let's change that. Actually, look.
Basically just called one after the other.
Exactly. I'm going to simplify that, right? I'm going to create another function called world. So if I return world here, right? So if now I want to call that, right? If I want to capture that world token, you know that if I call world function, if I want to save that, I can do let result equals world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We call the function returns something. Yeah, I want to capture. That's easy. Actually, this hello function is literally the same thing. Why? Because in reality, if we call the function just once, that hello function is returning, is not a string, is not an object, is returning another function. So that's because here I can type let result function equals hello, right? And will this print hello message or not, like that? No. Why?
It's stored it in result.
Exactly. We're storing the function, but we're not invoking the function. So if I run that, look, we display the function itself, right? But we are not invoking the function. Then, if we call the function, we got hello, right? That's exactly the same thing that Justin suggested, right? Do you know, okay, why this makes any sense?
Why it makes sense?
See, well, when this kind of development pattern can be any interesting at all?
It'd be like if you've got a user
Mhm.
that is registering
Mhm.
or something like that, and then you want to sort of return the name of the person that registered.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Not too bad. That's not too bad. So look at what I'm doing now. I'm going to call the hello function several times, right? Look at what I'm doing. So I'm going to call hello 3 times. 1, 2, 3, right? Yeah, but with the double, yeah, because I want to get the message displayed. Right. So let's see. Here we go. We got 3 hello messages, right? That's all good. But then let's start thinking about passing parameters, because we want to somehow customize the message that we want to display. So the thing is, if we pass here a message like good morning, right? Imagine that we always want to do that, right? So here we got message, and then we can actually, using the backticks, as you already know, we can customize the message, right? We can do something like that. And then we get the message, right? So this is a good practice, because instead of doing that, instead of calling that 3 times, we can actually kind of cache the result. So we could do something like that. We could do let result function equals hello, good morning. Let's do that once. So then, look. We get the same thing. We don't need to type that 3 times. Even further, here now we can customize the behavior, passing the name of the user. So then, how can we change the function this here to get hello, good morning, Mary, hello, good morning, Peter, hello, good morning, Luis?
Let, let, for example, return that function in parentheses.
Sorry, just a second.
You know, when you declare the variable let.
Let, here,
Yeah, in the parentheses, if you put in the parentheses.
another one, again,
Not on the end, I mean, on the variable.
on the, here,
And pass out like a name.
like that? No. Right, I want to display hello, good morning, Mary. You know what I want to do, right? I just want to add a suffix to append the name of the user at the end of the message. I like that. Another argument where
Next to where it's got message, add name. At the top.
here at the top,
No, so
right,
the
here.
function hello,
name, right?
Yeah.
And then what?
And where you got the message in the
Here?
Yeah, after that.
Right? Something like that?
Where I said it was the
Also
variable, and then after the variable parentheses.
Right. Well, wait a second. So let's first of all let's explore this option. So I believe this is going to display hello, good morning, undefined 3 times. Exactly. Why? How many arguments the hello function has?
2,
How many arguments when we invoke the hello function are we passing?
1,
So what's the value of the second one?
1.
Exactly. So the idea is not radically wrong, but we are passing that argument in the wrong place. Exactly, Norbert. So what we need to do, look, so the result function is pointing to the function that has been returned. So we need to put it here. Let's try that. Exactly. That solves the problem. So this pattern, which is pretty advanced to be honest, is very useful when we want to reuse. We want to reuse stuff. Why are we reusing good morning? right? Otherwise, we will have to write down good morning 3 times, right? But in this particular case, this is like the setup. So we prepare the schema by passing the argument once, and then we just need to customize the dynamic part with the name of the user. Probably you've noticed something interesting, that even though we are running this function, the inner function do stuff. In reality, message.
That is not do stuff.
Exactly. Name is obvious, right? Because name is here, we can use it. But what about the message? Message is not declared here. It doesn't exist, but still works.
So you could have put the message part in the next to the do stuff part as well.
So you want, right,
So
okay.
Next to name. Have
Next to name.
there, and then just have the empty hello function.
Oh, sorry. Like that?
Yeah, obviously yeah, and then get rid of that message.
Right.
Does that do anything?
Right. What is this going to display?
It's going to return. Well, that's saying.
Yes, exactly.
Wrong number of arguments.
Wrong number of arguments. That's brave. No, you're never going to get a wrong number of arguments error in JavaScript. That doesn't exist. But exactly. So at the moment, the problem is that, yeah, I'll show you. I believe this will display hello undefined Mary, hello undefined Peter, and hello undefined Luis. Here we go. Why?
Because message never passed in as an argument.
Exactly. Look. So do stuff. This is do stuff, right? Do stuff. We're passing one argument, which is the name, but we are never passing another argument. We could fix that by doing something crazy here, right? This will work for the first example, as you can see here, because we are in this particular case sending a second argument. But then we are changing the rules. That's not what we want to do. So that's not the way to solve it. We know this works, but we need to understand why message is still available, because we can see it works even if it's not declared here. This is a very important principle in JavaScript, which is scope. And that's the second thing I wanted to talk about today. In JavaScript, you can access a variable like name or message if that variable is declared in your scope. Usually a scope is a function, not always, but usually it's a function. So this is one scope. Or if it's not there, then JavaScript will look up on the parent scope, in this particular case, the parent function, to see if it's available there, right? So if it's here, it will resolve. If not, it will check on the parent scope. So is name available on the current scope? Yes, done. We display name. Is message available on the current scope?
Yeah.
What? No. Okay, let's keep checking. Is it message available on the parent scope?
Yeah.
Then return it, right? That's how scope blocks or closures, maybe you've heard of that, like closures work in JavaScript.
It's all deep. If you get to the function.
So that's function scope that you've got highlighted right at the moment.
Sorry, Chris. Sorry.
If you put the do stuff function in a do stuff function.
Yeah.
Like 3D.
Yeah. This is recursive. So yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. So what Norbert is suggesting is to make it even more complicated, and then add return, do deeper stuff, which is another function, right? And that function has the last name, and so return function, right? And that thingy will return something here. Let's add a console log here, right? I mean that's valid. That's a good example, right? Mind blowing if you want, but that's still a good example, right? So then we can display the last name on the right hand side. So what do we need to do to display the last name? How can we fix this example?
Put last name
In In where?
The next to the name. Which
Next to the name,
the
like
do stuff function.
that?
No, up at the top one.
On top. Okay, so no resistant to open a parenthesis. Yeah, and then the last name, no? So Marie Curie, Peter Murphy, right? And Lewis Hamilton. Right. Right. So let's see that. Exactly. You are right. Exactly. It's the same principle, right? It depends on how deep do we want to go on the tree, but it's the same principle. So is last name available on the current closure? Yes, it is. Return it. Is name available on the current closure? It's not. No problem. One level up. Is name available on the parent closure? Yes, return it. Message. Is available here? No. Is available there? No. Is available here? Yes, return it. And what happens if then we do email?
You have to specify email.
At the moment, if I don't
Okay.
specify an email,
Well, then undefined.
undefined. No. No, it blows up. And this is one of the good things about modern JavaScript. Until 2 or 3 years ago, that was still allowed. So in other words, if the variable wasn't found at all, it was assumed that it was created at the root level. But now, JavaScript is more strict. So if it cannot find the variable, it complains. Let's try it again. Email is not defined. Fortunately, error message is very descriptive, right? Email is not defined, right? So this is telling you to create the email. So then the question is, if I add an email here, will it work?
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Because this is the global closure. This is the root level, but that's still valid, right? Questions? No?
Would sort of code like that be used, or is that like not very clean?
I mean,
It looks very clean.
yeah, I don't believe this is very clean, because the thing is, if you need to do that because of whatever reason, first of all, that takes a while to, I wrote that, right? But I need to spend like 20 seconds to understand what they did, right? And that's not good. So that should be much easier.
Declare the function outside of the
Right, so
and then call it.
definitely, yes. So if because of whatever reason you need to do that, it's probably a better practice to at least refactor your code, at least. So what that means, so instead of nesting, so every time you see this kind of nesting, this is very smelly. That proves that we haven't been able to write cleaner code. So to me, every function should be at least 1 or 2 levels deep, that's it. But that thingy, this is not good. It's really hard to read. So for that particular case, yeah, we can split that. We can create another function. Look, it's much easier than that. So look at what I'm doing. So I'm actually going to cut do stuff. I'm going to paste it here. It's just a function, right? There's nothing very exciting on it. So if I do that, then look, I'm just doing the same. I just cut and paste code. So I just took the do stuff function from here and I created a new one. So if I run that, yes, I need to, yeah. So that's very interesting. Do you want me to explain that?
Yeah,
No.
It seems like really complicated because it's just like
Yes.
trying to do stuff is going all the way to the top.
Yeah.
It's like there's separate pieces to me when you do stuff like that.
The problem about cascade, basically,
Sorry?
is the problem with why it's showing an error is because it's cascading.
No.
That's good. They're not. Is it running the first function first and it's not running it next to this one?
No. Look at the error. The error says message is not defined.
Is that because it can't look into
Yes.
function
So
as opposed to a function that can look out?
yeah, no. So the problem here, that's the same we just explained. Closure. Is message available on this closure? No. Is message available on that closure? No. Then give up. Blow up, right? We've changed the structure. Even though we just move some bits around, we've changed the structure, right? This may happen. I'm going to solve it, but I'm not going to explain why. We may tackle that towards the end of the bootcamp. So this is talking about bindings. So for that particular case, I need to tell that whenever someone calls do stuff, which will happen here, please provide message.
So binding.
Sorry.
The null, I don't know what null is, but I understand what you mean by
Yeah.
binding message, but what's the null part?
So null, that's the context, that's this. You don't need to learn that now. That's why I didn't want to do that, because this is just going to confuse you even more. So in that particular case, I will surround that expression. So that's the name. So then I will call do stuff with the message and the name, and then I'll change that, and I'll send the message, and then it will work, right? But yeah, but the thing is, still, that still looks very complicated to me. So I'm showing you these kind of examples because at some point it's good to understand what is calling what, right? So it's good to have an idea about how to follow the stack trace. But if we have this code, it's probably a good time to rethink about it and write it again, right? To me, the really important bit about that is the example that we saw before with the breakpoints. So this is what I will consider something reasonable. Let me see if I can put it back, because I think that was a good example. Yeah, I think it was that, right? So I think that this is what I really want you to understand today. That if we have this structure, we can have a callback function, and then as part of that callback function, we can call it whenever we want, right? Question, can we change that? Let me see if that works again. Yeah, that works. Can we change that with an arrow function?
Yes, you can.
Yes, we can. Okay, let's do it. How can we do it?
Delete function.
Delete function and
The arrow there.
yeah,
Put the arrow there, yes.
like that, right?
No, you
Not
don't-
like
you
that.
don't need the-
Yeah, so that's the right. So wait a minute. So that's the argument I need to open. Yeah, something. Come on. I'm confused now. Excuse me. Yeah, should be something like that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the callback function that will be invoked here. Here you go.
You could even make it one line.
We could even make it one line. Yes.
Would you generally make that one line, or would you have it set up like that?
It depends on the length of the line. So you've noticed that in your Visual Studio, you get a vertical line about the character number 80. So my rule is, if what I want to do fits within 80 characters or 70 characters, then it's okay to leave it there. Because that means that I can read the line quickly. If it goes beyond, then it's a good time to split it into a new line. There are no strict rules. This is just common sense, right? If it's too long, split it. What's the undefined? Yes, so that undefined, that means nothing actually. So that means that that script is returning nothing. You can ignore it actually. There's nothing to worry about it. Yeah. Questions?
So you can name that callback function anything you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I can call that Chris function. That function, you've seen that I'm doing this kind of thing, right?
It's a shorthand.
It's not a shorthand. I can remove it, right? So that's just syntactic sugar. Look, still works. Doesn't matter what you do, it still works. But as a matter of good practice, if this is a function, right, I recommend to add fn, because this is a way to tell your colleagues this is a function, right? And then you may expect that to be invoked at some point, right? But yes. So
Can we have function in an array?
can we have a function in an array? That's a good question. So we got an array, right? And the first element is an apple, but the second element is a function. That kind of example, right? So if this is a console log, let's simplify it. Console log hello, and this array is called, let's call this array weird. How can we display that message? Weird array 1. And then
Return.
return, like that, right? No, you're wrong. What happens if we do that?
Not much.
Does it just show the function?
Yes,
Just lists
So
the
if you
content.
do,
You have to
exactly. So
invoke some-
yes,
somehow.
you are right. You are right. So if we do that, look, we are just keeping the reference to the function, which is a good starting point, don't get me wrong, but we want to invoke that. We want to call that function, right? So then we need to do that, right? It works. So Christian was asking about adding a function on an array. To me, this is very, very, very exotic. However, it's not that exotic to have a function in an object. I'm going to give an example. So if we got an object called user, right? We may have a first name. Well, you know all these things, right? Peter, and then we got last name, Murphy, right? And then, right, so if we now want to display first name and last name, right, we can do console.log user. Let's add some backticks. So that could be user.firstname and user.lastname, right? You got that. That will work. Here you go. But imagine that in your application, you need to write that line like thousands of times, right? So we need a helper. I don't want to keep typing that all the time. So what you could do something quite sexy. You could create a function here. You can create a function called, well, however you want, of course, but I'll call that get full name, right? So if I do that, then look, the only thing I need to do, I don't even need the backticks, right? Well, I need to do this thing here. So yeah, so if we do that, can I do that? Why not, right? And then how do we return the first name and the last name? Return this dot first name and this dot last name, something like that. Okay, let's have a look. You're absolutely right. So this is very interesting. As you can see, up until now, I haven't talked too much about this object. In the long term of your career, that will be one of the most important things. Every job interview on a senior role, the first two questions you are going to get asked is, first of all, what scope means, which is what we have proved, and what this means. These are the two most important technical questions in the senior JavaScript world. I'm not going to go very deep on that. It's something that I would like to grasp bit by bit because it takes a while to fully understand that. But
So this just
We
applies
are already
to
very
the
good.
object.
sorry,
This just applies to the whole of that object.
applies to the whole object. This applies.
So if you had another object on the root, no, actually it just applies to.
If you have only this without nothing, it applies to the whole script or to the window. And here it applies only to the parent.
To the parent,
just user, instead of user.
Yeah.
to the user.
Yeah,
Right. Why user?
because that's the parent element.
Because that's the parent element. That's not accurate, actually. That's not accurate. Look, this refers to the object that called the function where this is. In other words, who is calling get full name? From which object? User. Correct. So then this points to user.
Yeah.
That seems obvious, but that may be more complicated. I'll give you another example. I'm going to create user2. I'm going to copy it.
And it's still gonna work.
So I got that, right? So you can imagine that if I do user2.getFullName, yeah, it points to the second one, right? That's okay, no surprises. But then let me do something. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove it. And I'm going to do user2.getFullName equals user.getFullName. Kind of weird, but just to prove my theory. So then, if I do that, will it display Peter or Mary?
I think it would do Peter.
Right, remember, this points to the object, to the object that invoked the function where this is defined. So in other words, who is calling getFullName, user or user2? User2, correct, you got it here. Because of that, even though getFullName is declared here, in reality, this points to user2. Let's prove that theory. Here you go. This is correct. I never said that was easy, but this is how it works. If you get rid of this, like that, like that, right? So what will happen if I run this example? Undefined. Any other option? Undefined. I don't think it's undefined, but any other option? Maria, Peter, is not undefined, is not Peter, is not Maria.
What one are you running here? User2.getFullName.
Sorry?
User2.getFullName.
Yeah, correct.
I think it would just show that function.
It will just show the function. No, because I'm invoking the function. So it will definitely execute that line. So you offer me three options. It will return undefined, it will return Mary, it will return Peter. Blow up. I'm with Albert. That should blow up. Exactly. Why? We've learned that 2 minutes ago. Come on, need more coffee. What is first name? Is it here? No, no problem, no problem. Don't give up yet. Is it here? It's nowhere. We don't have any variable called first name, right? It's nowhere. Because of that, it's failing. First name is not defined. There is no variable called first name.
Good question.
Yep.
It was a good question.
Okay, cool. Right, I'm going to do the last example of the day. And that's something that I'm probably not going to resolve, but I'm going to show you something that you may expect a specific behavior, but then you are going to prove that you are wrong. So, right. We got Peter Murphy, right? But we got this is a classic function, right? So can we change that with an arrow function? Okay, we should, right? That's a function, right? Let's do an arrow function like that. I may expect to get Peter Murphy again. That's interesting, right? It's the first time in your life probably that you have refactored an old function into an arrow function and it doesn't come for free. It has changed the behavior. Let me repeat the example. So we got the function and it works. Peter Murphy. But then I put the arrow function and it got undefined.
This is because the arrow function doesn't have this.
That's not correct. That's not
Use
correct.
it or-
Is it because the functions beyond parentheses?
No.
is not in the same line.
Same line? No, no,
There
no.
are a few.
This referring to, not the object.
Yes, correct. So remember what I told you about this, right? That this calls to the object that has invoked the function where this is defined. This is the definition of this, right? But if we use an arrow function, that's not the case. If we use an arrow function, we don't care about whether get full name has been called from user2, from user3, etc. This will point somewhere else. And that's why I'm not going to explain you why. The only thing I want to tell you is that a classic function and an arrow function are not the same. Even though they are very similar, in most of the cases, you could safely replace them. Please be aware that if you are playing with the this object, we could have problems, right? The reason why I'm not going to explain you why and all the details is because I want to prepare this well, because this is complicated. So I want to think about a good example that definitely helps you to understand that. For now, just keep that in mind, that generally speaking, you can replace them, but you need to be careful when we got these kind of things, right? And actually, I'm sure most of you've noticed that already. So let's do something. So no, I'm not going to do that now. No, ignore me. But if you are on React, right? If you got you remember that task number 7 maybe to change the title after 3 seconds, the timeout,
Yes.
right? So on the timeout, all of you all use the arrow functions, because if instead of the arrow functions you use the classic function, it didn't work at all, right? Yeah. Again, I'll come back to this topic because this is one of the most complex ones towards the end of the bootcamp. For now, just keep that in mind. We got classic functions, we got array functions. They are very similar unless we want to access the this object. Okay? If you know some Java, you know that they got things like tiny arrows, something like that, instead of with the equals, with the dash. This is not supporting in JavaScript yet, but this will happen shortly. So just to let you know, and this again adds a new behavior to make it everything just a little bit more complicated. Mm-hmm. Right. Any question? No? So we have 11 minutes left, so now it's up to you. Do you want to talk about anything else in particular?
Other looping methods, others asked.
Right, let's have a look to the poll. So the second, well,
Oh,
there was a draw, right?
Yeah,
so
probably that.
yeah,
That's good as well.
I don't mind.
You wanted varlet and const.
Okay, let's do varlet and const. There is a workshop program for that, but let's do some stuff here. So if I do let username equals Peter, right? So then I can display username Peter, right? Not surprising. If I change it with var, still works. Even if I set const, still works, right? So there are scenarios where we can use var, which is the old approach, let, and const. They are equally valid, right? So thinking about const, we can clearly see that this is something that should not change, right? It's a constant. A constant should remain constant, right? So if now I try to change the username from Peter to Mary again, what will happen?
It won't change.
It won't change, so it will throw an error. Exactly. Look. Cannot assign a new value into a constant, right? So that's constant. That's something obvious. But what happened between var and let? What are the differences between var and let?
Yeah. The
Scope.
This is net not scope
Mm-hmm.
and var.
It's a function. You're right, exactly. The difference is very, very subtle, right? But this is the typical thing that you should know because that's the third question that every company is going to ask you. So just learn it and that's it, right? That's simple as that. So let's play an example. So we're going to do function get fruits. So then we got an array of fruits. Instead of get fruits, we're going to do display fruits. So it's going to be pineapple, the banana, and the pear, right? So then we could do fruits.map fruit. No, sorry, let me change that. Let me do an old for loop. So we do for var I equals 0, I is below fruits.length, I++. Do you remember how to do that? For loops, do you remember that kind of syntax? Right? If you don't, please watch the video about loops. So then we can do here console.log what? How do you display the fruit? Fruits I, thank you, right? So then that means that if we call that function, it displays the fruits, right? That's something trivial. We all understand that. But then, what happens if here I do that? The value of the index is, what will this return? 4. 4. Any other suggestion?
I don't think it will return anything because
Anything?
it's outside of the for loop.
It's also, then what? Undefined error 4, 2, 1, 3.
Probably undefined.
Who said 3? I think Aaron is right. So in that, let's play that. Exactly. Why 3?
That was a lie.
It's only 3 there. That's it, right?
0, 1, 2.
Yeah, of course. We start at 0, then we loop. Is 1
Oh,
less than 3? Yes. Go again.
because what
Is
was-
2 less than 3? Yes. Is 3 less than 3? No. Break. We got here, right? I is 3. That's okay. That's okay. However, what happens if I do that? Undefined?
Yes, because let is not a global scope, and you cannot get out. You can get the value out of
Why undefined?
I, because the console log function cannot go into the for loop to ask for the value
Right. Let's review by the third time
from that.
closures in JavaScript. Is I declared on the current scope?
Yes.
No, it's not. No. Listen, that's an scope and that's another scope. So I is declared on a sibling scope, but it's not wrapped, right? It's not in this. It's not on the same scope. So same scope will be here. That's the same scope, but in here, this is another scope. Look at the brackets, right? Because of that, let is slightly more strict than var, right? Because definitely plays better with the concept of closures and scopes that we have just explained. So I is not declared on this scope, I is not declared on that scope neither, then error, modern JavaScript, I is not defined, right? That didn't happen with var. With var it worked. Because when you declare a variable using var, it gets automatically promoted. It's like it got like copied there, something like that. Weird, right?
They get copied to the top of the function.
Exactly. It gets copied to the top of the function. So this is what in JavaScript is called hoisting. So hoisting is a technique. This is another question that you're going to get. So please write it down, what hoisting means. So hoisting is a mechanism in JavaScript that promotes the declaration of the variable to the top of the function where they show up, right? But for now, I'm not going to ask you what that means. Just we're talking about the differences between var and let. Just when you get that question, first of all, you never use var because this is old, and then they are very similar, but the difference is that is the scope where they apply. So as Justin originally said, so let has visibility on the current scope, whatever it is, but var has a wider scope and it gets promoted to the function it belongs to. I mean, it's easier to see than to explain, right? So in this case, var I works, but let I doesn't work. That's the difference.
You
Right?
just got to just keep looking at how many brackets around the.
Exactly. So a closure is defined by a bracket, right? So there are different types of closures. So this is a closure.
That's a block.
It's a block.
Scope,
This is a block.
function scope.
Yeah, exactly. So regarding to let is more strict because let understands that closure, that block, that scope. But var doesn't understand it because var just understands functions. That's why if we put the var here, this means nothing. So essentially the scope will be the first function it finds, which is this one. Questions? No? Right, so as we still have 3 minutes left, and I know that this is complicated, I would like to let you know something. Sometimes JavaScript is complicated. Even further, sometimes JavaScript doesn't make any sense, right? So because of that, my suggestion is don't try to understand every single line of documentation you read, because sometimes you're going to feel you're stuck and you're not going to progress, right? It's good to understand things, it's good to get the high picture, but don't feel frustrated. Because if you don't understand something, it's then time to revisit again and again and again, right? To prove my theory, I'm going to play a video, 5 minutes video that is probably going to be quite fun.